If you're starting a business, getting organized is just as important as your LLC and business licenses and insurance. This video will show you exactly how I set up my business filing system for success. This will make sure that you are organized and not scrambling and stressed out trying to find important documentation when you need it. Entrepreneurs who stay organized stay ready. So let's build a folder system that's going to save time, save money, and save you a whole lot of stress. What I did was I created a folder that is on my external drive so that I can show you how a folder structure would be set up. So let's say I'm starting a new business and I am getting ready to set up all of my folders. What would be some of the folders that I would actually set up? The very first one I'm going to set up is going to be business formation, because if you've done these videos in order, you have already set up your LLC, got your EIN, you've got your business license registrations, your insurance, and did all of your credentialing. So now you need a place to store all of that information. So what I would do is I would go in here and I would do new folder. And I would call this something like corporate information. You could call it business formation. You can call it anything but the point is I want you to see it at a global umbrella level, because when you build out folders, when you go into them, then you're going to have subfolders. So the very first one I'm going to have is going to be taxes. Now, the next one I'm going to have is going to be business license. And what you want to do is under taxes, you're going to start with your EIN. Or you could very well just put your EIN under taxes. You don't have to create a separate folder for it. You could do it whichever way works for you. Then what you're going to do is under taxes, what you're going to see is once you start getting into business, you're going to have to start getting your taxes done, which means you're going to have to send certain things to your accountant or your tax strategist, and they're going to send things back to you. So what you're going to do is you're going to click new folder. And the way I would do it is 2025 tax season. And therefore, whenever I get my taxes done for 2025, I'll put that stuff here. Now, you may want to do it to where you're actually keeping track of expenses and things of that nature in this folder. If you want to, you could do that. You could go do new folder and you could put 2025 tax expenses. You could do a new folder for 2025 to tax accountant. And then you could do one or two things. You could do a folder for final returns here. Or if you wanted to, you could go into taxes and you could do new folder and you could do final tax returns. And then once you go under final tax returns, you could do it by year. So you could do 2025 and then you could do another one for 2024. So let's say you've already in business, you've done taxes, but you just want to watch this video because your current filing structure sucks. Okay, so maybe you want to go back and do 2024 and put this stuff in. So what I want you to be able to get from this is you have a main folder or a parent folder, and then you have subfolders underneath. Do whatever works for you, but the main thing is you have to be able to find what you are looking for. A lot of people don't like a lot of subfolders. What I don't want you to do is to go out here and have corporate information, and then you just drop everything for corporate information in here. You drop your articles of incorporation, your EIN, you drop all your tax files and things out here. You put all your business license, permits, insurance, and so now you're scrambling through trying to say, oh my goodness, well, where's my cybersecurity insurance? Well, where's my EIN number? You don't want just a whole bunch of files under this corporate umbrella or this corporate info folder or this parent folder. So make sure that you do have some subfolders, even if it's not as detailed as some of the ones I'm going into. So then you may want to have a folder that is around entity formation. And therefore, under here, you would put things like your articles of incorporation, and you would put your operating agreement. All of that kind of stuff will go under entity formation. So the other folders that I would tell you that you would want to set up, so that's one. And I have a little list here. The other ones is going to be licensing and permits. So you could certainly do this one or two ways. You could put that under corporate info, which is probably what I would do. I would put my business license under here. Or if you just wanted it out here as a parent folder, you could do that. Because what happens is under business license, you may have one for state. And then you may have one for county. as like the permits and things, depending on where you're at. So you can do it that way, or you can have it just as its own folder, main corporate folder. Banking and financial, that's important. So the way I actually have ours set up is I have corporate information, and then under corporate information, I have a folder that's called financial. And under financial is actually where I have my tax set up. I have payroll under here. I would have all of the banking account information. So that's how I actually have our folders set up. It would be under corporate information and then everything that falls underneath. Another reason why you want to make sure that you're looking at your parent levels is because let's say you have employees or a team, or you're going to hire some at some point, and you want to give certain employees access to certain folders. If you have them embedded or in the right folder, you can just give them access to one folder versus having to give them access to the whole drive. And we've had to do this. So some of our employees are now managers, and so therefore they need access to the payroll folder, but they don't necessarily need access to the tax folder that would be under corporate information. So now all I have to do is give them access to this payroll folder. So keep that in mind when you're setting these folders up. I also, under corporate information, as I have our insurance, and under insurance, I would have several different things, because once you start getting into the insurance, you're going to notice it's a lot of back and forth. And so you may have cyber security insurance, because we talked about that on the other video. And then you may have professional liability. And then you may have general liability. And so what happens is you want to go into these folders and make subfolders. So when I go under cybersecurity, you may have a folder for quotes. All right. And so in here, that's where you're doing all your gathering, and you put all your quotes in there. And then once you get a final policy, you're going to have one called final policies. This is important, and I tell you why. Once these things start to expire and renew, and then you got to produce evidence that you have insurance, you're going to make sure that you go to the most recent one. So under final policies, I would also have a archive folder, and then I would have a current folder. Now, you could have an archive folder and everything that's already expired, stick it there, and then under final policies, just have the ones that are actually active, or you could actually have a current folder. So this current folder isn't needed. You can just list out the insurance that you actually have, or you can actually have a current folder, whichever one. But I would recommend separating what is now currently active versus what has already expired. That's going to be very important. And then you would do the same thing with all of your other insurance folders. Another folder that you're going to want to have is going to be your marketing and advertising. And so we go back out here and we do new folder, and we're going to call it marketing and advertising. This folder can grow really big, really fast. And so under marketing and advertising, you absolutely want to have your brand assets. This is going to include things like your logo colors, your hashtags, your taglines. All that stuff is going to go under brand assets. You also want to, in my opinion, have one for social media posts. So whenever you're actually making and creating things, say in Canva, like your marketing materials, you can take them and drop them into social media posts. You may want one for pictures that you're going to use in your marketing and advertising. Another one that you may want to use is places that you actually go and you actually sponsor. So these could be sponsorships. Another big one, your marketing materials. And under here, I would tell you to have things like your letterhead. You would have any flyers, pitch decks, all that kind of stuff is going to go under your marketing materials folder. And you could very well go in and say, I want to have one folder for drafts, and I want to have one folder for final. All right. So those are the type folders that you want to set up inside of your marketing and advertising. Now, I'm not going to do all of these that I actually have as an example. I'm going to list them out in a document below that you can download and get access to. And it's just basically going to show you some of the folder examples that I would recommend you have. And then what would you actually put underneath? What I want you to notice from here is that you actually have some type of organization in your file structure as it relates to the parent parent folder, and then your subfolders. I want to share with you a couple of nectar nuggets as it relates to organizing your files. Number one, I want you to have a consistent naming convention. And so whenever you're naming your individual files, I want you to have a convention that says, here's the name of the file, and maybe it has a date. So it could say cybersecurity _ final policy _ 2025. This way you know what the file represents, and you also know the date if that's important. Or it could be versions, because version control is important. So maybe you're working on a contract and the very first one that you send over is version 1. And then the client sends you back some red line. So now this is version 2. Or maybe it says client red line and then the date. You want to make sure you have a consistent naming convention so you can always name your files the same way. And then you can also be able to find them and know what you're actually looking for. Again, this is going to save you time, save you money, and cause you to be less stressed out. The second nectar nugget is I want you to schedule a routine check-in where you're actually going back through your emails that may have files that somebody sent you, like final contracts, your insurance certificates. And I want to make sure that you have pulled those out of email and actually saved them into your folders. This is important because these things come around and we'll say, oh, we'll get around to it later, or it's in my email so I can always get to it. You do not want to do that, because when it's time to produce those files because someone has asked for it, now you're having to ask yourself, is it in my file folder? Is it in my email? If you go ahead and move it from your email into your file system, you always know that whenever you need something, you go directly there. Now, I get it. We all get busy. I have fallen into this trap. So what I'm telling you is set up a routine time where you go back and scan your emails, say for the last 30 days, make sure you've pulled all the attachments and saved them into your file folders. Also, when you're doing that cleanup, go through your file folder system and make sure you don't have any junk folders. So sometimes I'll create a new folder thinking I want to put something in it and then I don't. So then you go out and delete that folder. You want to make sure you don't have a lot of clutter. If there's things that need to be archived, go ahead and archive those files or folders so that, again, you don't have so much clutter. So those are the 2 nectar nuggets that I want to share with you as it relates to organizing your files. Another thing that I would recommend that you create after you've got your folder set up is going to be a spreadsheet that has the sites, the title of the site, your password, your logging name, because what's going to happen is you're going to have all these sites that you got to get your business license, your business one-stop, your tax accounts, and after a while it's going to be confusing possibly onto what was my password, how do I log in there. So you want to make sure that you have some type of tracking system or password locker. Those are really huge right now, where you can actually store the site, what your password is, what your username is, your security questions, all of that in a file. If you do have it in an Excel file, I would tell you to put it in a folder that maybe is only private to you or is password protected so that someone can't gain access to it and therefore have access to all of this private information to sign into your accounts. I will link below another free digital download that is a template of how I use a spreadsheet to actually track all of my passwords and things. It is nothing elaborate, y'all. Like, I hope y'all know that you don't have to overthink these things. I may actually pretty it up for you, but literally, it's just a spreadsheet that has the website, what the website is for, the login credentials, the password, and any security question answers on the side. That's it. Okay, so don't overcomplicate these things. You just need something to track so that when you're going back to these sites, you can very well go into it and don't have to scramble once again for your username and your password and the title of the actual website and, well, what's this website for? So hopefully you found this very helpful. Please go down into the comments section and download those digital downloads that's going to help you with your folder setup and to give you an idea of all the folders that you want to have set up as well. So please drop in the comments if you have any questions, and until the next video, please go out and be successful on getting your business set up and started.